Hey YouTube.com, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and today I'm going to talk about the original version of Colin Trevorrow story and how that actually unfolded and what happened, and how some people are being a little bit insane and ridiculous, but that's the internet, I guess. Up front, I reported on the original Trevorrow story, on Rey's backstory, how that was supposed to go in his version, and compared it to the Abrams one to some extent. Well, Trevorrow tweeted at me and said none of this stuff is true. And so everyone said, oh, everything that Making Star Wars or Jason Ward says is fake, it's false, it's bullshit, he's lying to us, it's haha, we're gonna get whatever our wildest dreams were. Kill that guy in his sleep. Yeah, get him when he's sleeping. Just like crazy stuff, you know? I was like, no. My sources are legit and they're top tier. No, I'm all, either Trevorrow's lying or something's going on. So I went, looked into it, and this is what it is. They brought in Jack Thorne to rewrite episode 9 when Lucasfilm and Disney was not happy with Trevorrow's work. They didn't want that movie. So they brought in Jack Thorne. Jack Thorne is between a rock and a hard place, honestly, in that he has to hopefully appease the work of that Disney wants and Lucasfilm wants, and make a movie that Trevorrow still wants to direct, still wants to make, and is passionate about. So he does what he does, which is what I reported on, actually, and those elements, that was the compromise, and I guess no one was happy, and J.J. Abrams came back. So that's what happened. I want to talk about the truth, not about fake made up stuff. I would never make up stuff just to have traffic or to make people talk about fake stuff, because that already happens. I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? And so essentially, I reported on the Jack Thorne script that was intended for Trevorrow to direct. It makes sense. This happened to me during Rogue One, a Star Wars story, when I reported that the last writer was coming in to direct the last, like, 40% of the movie. And when I say the last, I mean reshoots that were about 40% of the movie. And when that happened, people at Lucasfilm, like Pablo Hidalgo, came out and tweeted out that I was basically full of shit. But I wasn't. And everything that I said was rooted in reality. Now, in that instance, the lesson learned was, don't say a number. I said 40%. And if it was 39% or whatever the percentage happened to be, they had deniability there. So in Trevorrow's instance here, I got a feeling he didn't like that script and it kind of pissed him off. So when the story came out attributing his name to that work, for the movie he was intended to make, he was like not happy about it. That's my assumption. And I get that. That makes sense if that's what happened. So talk to my sources. They said what you reported on is accurate. Those were things that were on the table and are in the final script before J.J. Abrams came back in. So I brought a pretty big piece of valuable information to the table still. And I don't know when I'm going to report on it or when it will be wise to. Right now, I feel like it will just be a headache, so I'm not going to do it like this week. But I can tell you what's in Trevorrow's script. I can tell you what is in all of the concept art that they made for that movie. I can tell you what ended up being used and what wasn't. And when you break all of that stuff down, you will see how the evolution of episode 9 happened. And not 30 years from now when people are dead and they're happy to report on the truth then, or some version of it. I care about the making of Star Wars, the making of Star Wars films. That's why I called my site that. And that's my agenda in this. So what I did do was, just to see what would happen, I tweeted at Trevorrow and I said, hey man, I don't want to do you dirty twice. I don't want to attribute stuff to you twice. So this Swalloway, I'm not sure how you pronounce it exactly from memory, honestly. And the spelling might be a little bit off, but that was the main villain in Trevorrow's script. And that's what I'm willing to talk about, at least, that there was no Palpatine. There was this Swalloway character, or Swalloway, I'm not sure how you say it. And she was a sort of a dark side villain. And I think this ties into the stuff a long time ago where we talked about how there was going to be a promotion after Last Jedi that was going to reveal this new dark side villain. I got a feeling this was that character. If you listen to Analysis Podcasting, we went into it during the Last Jedi era of information and stuff like that. Now, what's also hilarious to me is like some of the discourse on Reddit, and then how a lot of you don't read anything and just hear shit secondhand and pick it up and then go run with it as if it's truth. Like, I didn't get anything right on The Last Jedi. I told people about DJ, I told people about Holdo, I told people about Porgs. Now, here's another time when I fucked up. And I fucked up when people out there in Ireland were watching them film a lot of the stuff from the Octu sequences. They were giving me daily videos, in-depth, really quality videos. And some of them are still on this channel. You can go and watch them on over here. They're not very exciting today, but it's there and you could see what I was seeing. So, people say Knights of Ren. They told me, the people out there in Ireland, that the Knights of Ren were out there and that they were like, Rey was like running on the beach, running after them. And they had axes and pitchforks and all of these, you know, kind of like knives and stuff. And it was like, yeah. And then like, and I had seen pictures, I had posted pictures on the site, which you could also see, of people in black robes and stuff like that, like around the Falcon, all this stuff. So what it was they were the caretakers and the male caretakers coming back to Octu, like those frog people that Rey keeps pissing off. So it was them, it was those characters, and they didn't have the mask on and they were like doing rehearsals. So all of the stuff in those reports can be accounted for though. That's the difference, is it was empirically seen by these people and misreported to me. What can I do? I could either not report it or I could report it. I ended up reporting it and then later on figuring out that it wasn't accurate, and then I cleared it up. Well, today people want to go and use that as this example because they want like Reylo to happen, or they want something to happen in the movie that doesn't, or they don't like what happens in the movie, as if it's my fault what the filmmakers make. It's like, if you don't want to know what's happening with the movies, and like, remember, I've reported thousands of stories and we're hearing about like 3 times right now. You have 3 times that it was not good. And in all 3 times, Rogue One, I still feel right about that. But I messed up because I said Christopher McQuarrie was the director, and it was Gilroy. So like, that's where I have to own that. Messed that one up, but the story still is at its core correct. What's next? The Octu sequence. That one I was in between a rock and a hard place on that one, and it's not as right as it could have been. All of the stuff though is accounted for in the cutscenes from the movie with the caretakers, and so you can see that while I had to rely on eyewitness accounts that ended up interpreting things incorrectly, the report has integrity on my end, and it was also checked with other people who were there. So you have like all of that stuff coming together. And then now you have this one where I reported on Jack Thorne's script for Trevorrow, and it's still right. The information is right. Where it was wrong was that Connolly and Trevorrow didn't write a word of that stuff. Okay? So there we go. So if you want to take those reports or this newest one and act like everything that I've reported on episode 9 is going to be incorrect, you're crazy. And you're assuming I only have one source when I have enough sources. I have more sources than you probably have friends, some of you. Nerds. I'm kidding. They want to put me against Jedi Paxis. Like, people who just don't know what's going on. Like, I reported on like the Sith fleet stuff, and then he was like, oh, Jason did that. He's all, I have a lot of stuff to drop. He went and dropped and elaborated. And then I elaborated. It was like a fun game of ping pong between me and Paxis throughout most of this. And it's like, I'm not going to let them turn me against him and him against me or any of that jazz. And if Paxis felt any differently about me, not to put words in his mouth, but when there was a thread that was just about debasing me on Star Wars leaks for like 4 hours, he was the one who locked it up and shut it down and said, like, this isn't how we are, guys. And if it was that way, he wouldn't have done that. Just a little bit of common sense here. So the last thing that it has also picked up in this discourse is that I steal from everybody. All of my information is just taken from what people said. And it's like, that is insane. Number one, I can't know what everybody says. So if anything lines up, then that's what it is. But I also always cite. I don't have any problems with any of the other major websites or any of that kind of stuff because we always cite. I've also always encouraged people to start podcasts, and I always retweet new podcasts. Like, that whole idea that I would do that or that I'm that kind of dude is just like the most offensively stupid thing anybody could say about me, to be honest with you. But when you put all of this together, it is funny because it just amounts to mass petulance. Sorry if the movie isn't going to be the movie you want or you deserved or what you thought you were going to get. My suggestion would be just to like Star Wars. Don't get too attached to anything until it's done, until you've seen it through. And most of all, like I keep trying to tell people, don't shoot the messenger. If you don't like what I'm saying, it's not my fault. It's not, I could only say what sources have told me. And I also have probably, holistically throughout the history of this Star Wars online stuff, probably have a higher percentage of correct reports by far than anybody ever. And it's not because I'm the coolest or I'm so full of myself. It's because I almost always have multiple sources. I don't report every single thing that I hear. I sit on things. Like the report in question today is a report from from before Abrams even took over. So it's like, I don't just jump into things. Like, things have to be right, because I want to see you guys discussing Star Wars in a way that is somewhat educational, creative but educational, that contributes to the discourse, that makes for fun conversation, not some random kind of like, hey, what if Chewbacca's raised dad? Like, that's just a waste of everybody's time. If people want to do that, they can, but it's a waste of my time. I would rather talk about things that are more realistic and in the sphere of plausibility and what's happening and what's going on. And with spoilers, there's always that ambiguity that's left over at the end. Like, I could report every single thing from a movie. Paxis could report every single thing from a movie. But when you see the movie, it's going to be different because we're not writing the novelization. And even the novelization is going to be different. And you guys should know that. So when you put all of this together, I've made 3 mistakes. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, don't get me wrong. But I made 3 mistakes that were of note in my little Making Star Wars career about reporting stuff. It was that Gilroy was directing Rogue One when I thought it was Christopher McQuarrie, because Christopher McQuarrie was the last writer I knew about at the time. And that was how the sources reported it to me. The other thing was what I just talked about. It's like, it was correct still. Sorry. And then the other thing was the first-hand witnesses in Ireland for the Octu filming stuff. But also, people forget, like I said, Holdo, Porgs, DJ, sets, costumes, like Rey's conflict with Luke Skywalker. Like, I had stuff from The Last Jedi that you guys wouldn't believe. We're talking videos and stuff. It was insane. And I obviously can't post them and never would post them. But it's like, and when I say videos, I mean like videos of scenes. But it made it impossible to report. Because it was like, are they connecting through the Force? Why is Adam Driver here right now? Is he really there right now? See where I'm going with it? It was crazy. And this newest one, the Rise of Skywalker, was a little bit easier because we knew what the Force was doing after The Last Jedi to some extent, where we could kind of like rationalize it, And that's why things like flash fights, which are a little bit wrong, but a little bit right. And that's how it goes. And my method has always been, I'm going to report on what is going on, what it sounds like, so that way we can take it apart and we could dig in. Like, I would never put up like the whole movie in one go. if I had it, for instance, because I would want us to take it apart and go through each little bit of it, every nuance that we could, and what it means. Just the way I like it. It's the way I report it. Not knocking anybody else's way, that's just my way. So anyways, when you put it all together, like, I feel bad that I may have upset Trevorrow if he was upset. And I feel bad if that was a script that was given to him that offended him and is why he split. If that's how it happened, then, like, you know, that sucks, man. Like, sorry that happened, and then I reported it in that way. On the other hand, I did tweet to him the villain of his story for confirmation, and he didn't, because he can't. Because I think if he was, that would probably be breaking his NDA. And so I even gave something else from it. So point is, if anybody has a problem with any of it, it's like, what can you do? You know, I'm going to keep doing what I do, how I do it, and I'm going to keep reporting on Star Wars because I love it, and you should see what happens. You should see how things unfold, and who knows, maybe something you wanted isn't as good as something else that you'll get. And maybe when this movie comes out, it's going to be really, really good, or maybe it's going to be a disaster. But most of the people who are mad about things also don't have a very clear perspective on the fact that this isn't the last Star Wars movie. This is the end of the Skywalker saga in terms of how they're going to bundle it and sell it. Do you really believe you're never going to see Finn, Poe, Rey, Rose, and even the new Jaina again? If you think that, you might be an idiot, because you're crazy. And any problems that you guys have with this movie is just going to create a vacuum for them to go and fill it and sell you another ticket at the same price that you paid for The Rise of Skywalker. Think about it. This isn't the end at all. It's a silly notion. It's just being marketed that way, and it's the end of the Skywalker saga, and there will be lots of new sagas, and these characters will be involved in lots of other adventures. And if you think otherwise, have fun with those beliefs for like 30 seconds. And for the people that were, you know, calling for me to be canceled and all of that other jazz, in like a week and a half, when everything that I've reported has been correct, or at least in the very realm of, like, you know, reasonably correct, you suck. That's all I can say is you're a shithead, and it's going to probably end up all being right. And I have no reason to believe that the vast majority of it's going to be wrong. But what they're going to do is they're going to go and say, like, oh, he just backed off Paxis or this or that. And I did clarify stuff, and he did that for me as well. And like when Empire put out some stuff, I put out a video clarifying what you were seeing. And then it ended up being correct even further when that footage was released later on. And I reported on things that are never going to be in the marketing. So when the movie comes out and there's things that are not in the marketing that you see in the movie, that argument also needs to die. It's really stupid. I see why people have their assumptions and why they come to these places that they do come to. And I get it. And I also don't throw everything out there because I have sources. I need to protect them. And so you guys have this limited view, and mostly just a bunch of people being assholes on the internet, and I participate in it. So I made my bed and I'll lie in it. But at the same time, you don't have to be terrible. You could be more reasonable. And I can get one wrong. After all of these movies, after The Force Awakens in totality, Rogue One, I gave like the premise of the movie, and Jyn Erso's like relationship to her father, like all of these huge things, all of the characters in The Last Jedi, Solo, I put out all of every character's name, Enfys Nest and Mother Proxima, which is what we called her then instead of Lady because it changed. All of this stuff. If I'm wrong on this one, oh well, that's my take. I can get one wrong, but I can tell you nothing for me has changed. My stable of sources has not changed, and it would be very weird if all of a sudden now everything was just off and it was all diarrhea. It's a ridiculous notion. It's a stupid idea. So I hope you guys enjoyed the movie when it comes out. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing what the Jack Thorne version of episode 9 was going to be essentially, and learning what the bad villainess, if that's the word, in Trevorrow's story was. And like I said, I'll get to those details someday. I'm in no rush right now because the internet's made it not fun. But when it's fun again and my batteries are recharged, we'll dig into it. We'll dig into all of it. And it's going to probably be better to wait until the movie comes out anyways, because it'll be easier to juxtapose those plot elements, like those confirmed plot elements that we've seen empirically all together. So when that time comes, I'll dig into that stuff then as well. And just on like a little side note on that, with that name, I reported on a character from episode 7, The Force Awakens, called Trilla. You can look up Trilla on my website, and then you could go play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and see a character named Trilla. But it's interesting. So these kinds of things, they unfold. We might see that name show up somewhere else down the road. Who knows? But I hope you guys like the movie. Subscribe to the channel, and make sure you donate to the Kessel Toy Run. But I hope everyone has a good holiday and has a fun time seeing the new Star Wars movie, because it's the last one for a year or two. Donate to the Kessel Toy Run, you monsters. All of you. Also, if you shit talked me on the internet and you were wrong, donate to the Kessel Toy Run. Then we'll be...
Well, hello there, everyone. This is your friendly neighborhood podcaster, Iraj from the Sith List, bringing you holiday greetings, obviously, as you can tell by the silky smooth Christmas sounds in the background. I'm here to remind you that it's that time of year where you forget about yourself for a couple weeks and do something phenomenal for someone else. That's right, it's time to help support the Kessel Toy Run. Team up with the MakingStarWars.net, Steel Wars, Blue Harvest, Rogue One, and the Sith List. It's an opportunity for you to share your love of Star Wars and do something special for a child ages 1 to 12 that will be spending their holidays at a hospital. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. Starting November 1st all the way up to December 18th, you can either go to Amazon.com, look up, find a list or registry, search the Kessel Toy Run at gmail.com, pick out some stuff, and then send it that way, or you can just pick out items that are unopened and send them via the Kessel Toy Run, 3217 Carson Street, number 111, Lakewood, California, 90712. Kessel Toy Run has become an official nonprofit, a 501c3 charity, and tax ID will be given upon request. You can find more details and more information at MakingStarWars.net. So get out there, do something great this year. Thanks for listening, and happy holidays.